Good evening, my friends. So this video is about, or it's called, We Are All Children, and I want to start with a short story. I'm 30 years old now, and I'm assuming most of my viewers are older than I am, or at least my age, somewhere around my age. And if you're not, then this is educational for you. So when I was about in my mid-20s, had a couple kids, and there's this idea in our culture nowadays that when you reach a certain age, all of a sudden you're a grown-up. Like, you just understand how life works and you know everything, and like you no longer have to, I don't know, you like enter the club of being an adult, like being a grown-up. And our cult, obviously, millennials have now created the term adulting to allude to the fact that people don't actually know what it is. They just see it as a thing you do. And it's very telling. And the reason that people don't grow up is because they're not listening to their hearts. They're not taught to listen to the silence and to listen to their souls. They're not given an environment in which they can connect with reality as it truly is. And so we have no concept of what it means to be human, and therefore no concept of what it means to grow up or what it means to be an adult. The only way there is to follow your heart. There's no other way to grow up. But one thing too is that, and again, there's another commonly familiar topic or phrase is that we have an inner child. People talk about their inner child or the inner child. And in some circles that's really important. In some circles people diss that as being total fluff and like just ridiculous. The reality is we do have inner children, and that is consistent across the board. So again, my journey, if this video is new to you, is of rewiring my limbic system. And the woman who created the program I used, and the way she presents it is kind of rewiring the part of your brain that is about 3 years old. There are, however, as far as I've discovered in my experience so far, 2 other age groups or ages that are definitely in there very much. And it's about a 6-year-old and a 15-year-old. So you have your 3-year-old, which is just kind of it's where fear comes from. It's just this basic, like, the way it should express as an adult would be if a dog barks at you really loudly and you're walking, like, so for people who don't have limbic system impairment, I'm talking to you because everyone else knows what I'm talking about. If you are doing DNRS and have had limbic system impairment, you'll know what I'm talking about. But if you haven't, when you're walking past a yard where there's a dog and the dog barks and you just all of a sudden, like, without any there's no consciousness in that, you just react immediately, you just jump because that's your 3-year-old. Or the same thing, like a car flies past, there's a loud noise and you just kind of startle for some reason. That would be your 3-year-old. And that's just, again, very basic fear. And then the 6-year-old version of us is a little bit more, again, if anyone here has had the opportunity to watch children or have be around children, some of this might ring some bells in your mind. 6-year-olds tend to be the rule followers. They tend to be the judgment makers and the it must be this way kind of, that's kind of the attitude of that age. And so a lot of politics and religion revolve around this 6-year-old attitude of pointing fingers and you're right and you're wrong and everything's black and white and it can only be this way or that way. There's no ability to see a both and or see a higher perspective of how 2 seemingly different things could be part of the same reality. There's no capacity to see paradox in that 6-year-old's mind. And then there's, of course, the kind of angsty teenager that we all have inside of us. And that's, I think, again, everyone's familiar with that. Just the person who gets really pissy and angry at people when they step on your boundaries and who just, demands independence and wants to go out and party and, like, not have responsibilities. And you, like, are kind of grown up, but also not really. It's definitely, that's there too. So, again, and this is my experience. Those are the 3 I see. Those are the 3 I've rewired in myself as I've come to be fully human. And this is related very much to my video about self-love because, again, I'm still on this journey of self-love. It's a lifelong journey, and I'm now coaching a number of people, and the basis of this process of recovery from chronic illness and mental or physical or emotional, psychological, is a process of self-love. And what that means is being able to see the truth that there are these little people inside of us and that they have needs. And the only way to love ourselves and grow into a fully mature adult with all of those little people incorporated those children kind of acting as part of us, is to, in the moment by moment, day by day, ask yourself. So this is again geared toward a little bit more towards people who are rewiring or recovering in any way or seeking a process of maturation. What do I need right now? That's the question I always ask myself. My husband asks our children. I ask our children. It's this kind of, and I ask my coaching clients, what do you need right now? What do you need most right now? And ultimately, it's going to come down to meeting the needs of that 3-year-old, that 6-year-old, and that 15-year-old. And the basic need of the 3-year-old is for safety and security, kind of comfort. That's, again, like if you think of an actual 3-year-old, they'll test the boundaries, they'll push boundaries, but ultimately what they desire is for there to be a boundary there. They want you to give them a firm no. That's what they desire. They want to know they're safe. They want to know they're contained. They want to know where all the lines are and that they're not going to be allowed to misbehave. Again, it's like the bedtime example is a classic one, or nap time or meal time, where you've got, as long as you're consistent, lovingly and firmly, kindly consistent, and you give them what they need, plenty of attention and emotional love. But it's kind of this process of discernment to see what is it that you really need right now. And that's where following your intuition and tapping into your heart and your inner knowing comes in, because I firmly believe that each and every one of us knows exactly what we need. If we can tap in deep enough and we practice the skill of listening to our hearts and our souls, we'll know what it is we need in every moment. And it goes the same for the 6-year-old and the 15-year-old. There's so many different needs that we have at different points. And sometimes it's just boundaries. It's just saying, no, I'm not going there. I will not have that emotion. I will not have that thought. I'm not going to act on this impulsive, rash impulse I'm having right now, or this tendency I have to do something that doesn't serve me. So again, this is all coming from kind of your higher self is posed over these 3 children underneath, and it's taking into consideration your actual values. What do you actually care about? What are your goals? What does your heart say is true for you in this moment? What is the truth here? What do you actually need? And then you can say no to everything that doesn't serve your heart, your soul, your purpose, your actual well-being. And then that being able to say no to all that which does not serve you, you can then give a wholehearted yes to the things that do serve you. And then you feel fulfilled, you feel calm, you feel grounded, you feel invigorated and excited about your life, because you build a life around the things that you actually love. And again, if you think about the wide spectrum of human beings, 3-year-olds and 6-year-olds and 15-year-olds all have something in common, but what they love and what brings them alive and makes them get so happy and set on fire, or what brings them to calm and peace and equilibrium is different. It's different for each person. So what kind of floats your boat, whether you're, being a 5-year-old version of yourself or a 3, whatever age you're being, whatever floats your boat's unique to you. Again, I talk about this a lot. Like, it's your heart. You are unrepeatable in this world, and that is, pardon my French, fucking amazing. Like, it's unbelievably beautiful. You are just unrepeatable. So and again, one of the things that's so important is, listening to your heart, trusting your heart, knowing that it's only telling you the truth of who you are and what's best for you, and then following what does that mean that you need to do right now. A lot of times for me, this has been, again, setting very firm boundaries with my own brain, a lot of interior boundaries with myself about staying in the moment, listening to my heart, pursuing things that make me feel calm and grounded, making sure I prioritize sleep. And I love long walks. Like these are just kind of my examples. Elevating my mood in ways that bring me joy. There have been times where I really enjoyed drawing and coloring with crayons, like not very often, but occasionally. So it's just a matter of really tuning in. But when unconditional love is your goal and you don't have an ulterior motive, that's really important, because as children, just as children, like actual children, your inner children will see through bullshit with laser vision. Like, you cannot fool yourself. You cannot fool your own brain. If you are loving yourself for some other reason, like to please someone else, or because you're trying to mask what you feel like doing in the moment, that's what you know you shouldn't do, but you feel like it, and you want to mask it as self-love to feel better about it, your brain's going to see right through that. Like, your little inner children are going to see right through that BS. Like, ain't no way you're fooling yourself. So when the actual true intention is just unconditional love for its own sake, because love, that's where it's at. Love is what we're made of, and that's how we incorporate those aspects of us and bring it back to who we are. We become who we truly are when we incorporate all of these things in unconditional love must always be the only intention when you are going about loving yourself. It has to be very, very selfless kind of love. And this too is where so many people want to be able to give something to someone else. And I made videos about that, and I'm going to go a little deeper into that. This is how this works once you've given that to yourself. So for example, I've heard people say, well, I want to be able to be present to other people. And sometimes self-love requires that you kind of say no to other people so you can say yes to yourself for a little while. It's like a detour where you want to be able to be present to others. You want to be able to engage with others, but you need to be able to be present to yourself, to your own heart, and to engage with yourself and your true needs and desires. And what is it that you need in this moment to fulfill your purpose, to become all that you are? Give that to yourself first, and then you'll have it to give. But if you don't give it to yourself, you'll never have it to give to anyone else. And so many of us, again, in this culture, or if we have, anyone in this culture, and or if you have limbic system impairment, we haven't ever learned to be present to ourselves, to be present to our own hearts, and to just the way a butterfly lands on a leaf, or the way the light falls into the kitchen while you're making dinner, even the curve of a pepper as you slice it. Like, it's so important to be present to yourself, to your own heart, and the way it's perceiving the world. And then you can give that gift of presence to somebody else. The same goes for compassion and so on. The other implication this has, though, is that everyone else that you see in this world has those children inside of them. And even for those of us who are mature and have boundaries, sure, if someone is being an a-hole toward us, we can put up a boundary and block it out. Like people who have done the work and done their own work, done their own shadow work, and really incorporated themselves and learned boundaries and so on, they can block it out. It takes energy, but they can do it. But especially the people who are angry, the people who are controlling, the people who are manipulative, the people who are insecure, those are all, like, manipulation is a 3-year-old form of trying to control, / 6-year-old. It's like it's a childish way of trying to control a situation, is to manipulate it. That angry, angsty teenager you see so often in people who are kind of just flauntingly rebelling against whatever the norm is that they're resisting by doing the opposite very loudly and very publicly. That's a very, teenager kind of thing to do. And it's helpful to look at, when you look around the world, to understand that people are not different than you. No matter how different they may look, no matter how successful they may be, no matter what their gender, or their age, or their lifestyle, or their beliefs, they're human. And they have inner children. So what you say to them impacts them the ways that what they say to you impacts you. So when you feel tender and hurt, and it's people expend a lot of energy pretending that they're not vulnerable. Human beings will expend a lot of energy building up an exterior, building up a facade to pretend that they're grown-ups and they aren't affected by what people say to them, and that they don't care, and that they don't have feelings and so on. But let me tell you, from my experience as me, and then again, in the responses I've gotten from putting out very vulnerable things to this world, and in my direct connection, coaching practice, and just my friendships, because I only have very deep friendships. That's all I have. I don't do I do super, super deep friendship. That's all I do. And I have learned that every other person wants everything you want. And some people will sacrifice their entire life trying to pretend they don't, because they don't want to be hurt. They don't want to risk seeing, showing their heart to the world and saying, hey, I actually need connection and love. I need affirmation. So many people will just do anything to never admit to that. But it's there. And it just gives us a much different perspective of the world when you look around, and instead of seeing people who are monsters, or people who are scary, or people who are broken, or bitter, or whatnot, if you see the child inside of them, you see something else entirely. And you can treat them with so much more tenderness and so much more compassion. And what you say naturally, again, if you really can, once you've taken that stance for yourself and you look at other people and realize that everyone's on the same journey, and that inner child is truly there, and people are affected by what you do and what you say, and that a lot of people are acting from a place of profound hurt and trying to remedy it or protect themselves from future hurt. And that's so often the motive behind so many people's actions, is simply to protect themselves. It's self-protective. That's the limbic system's purpose, is to protect you. It is a self-protective mechanism. It's a survival instinct. And that's on many levels, not just your basic human survival, but your belonging to the tribe, your ability to be included, your ability to be valued and esteemed, because you're going to thrive more, you're going to survive longer, you're going to have a fuller, richer life if you are included, attached, connected, esteemed, etc. But the only way to get any of that, to receive that from others, is to give it to yourself first. When you respect yourself, when you esteem yourself, when you affirm yourself, when you love yourself, when you become a person worthy of all those things, and you give it to yourself first in your actions, your moment-to-moment actions every day, other people will respect you. They will respect you, they will respect your time, and you'll also know how to have boundaries with those who won't. But it really does change things when you understand that nobody's out to get you. People are just trying to protect themselves, and that's why they do what they do. It really is true. It really is profoundly true that what we do to others is a reflection of us, not the other person. It's a reflection of where we're at. Again, I mean, think of a basic example, like if in maybe a parent-child relationship is a really easy one, and we love our children, of course. All parents love their children in some manner, and I think most parents love their children a lot. And we want to be kind to them. And a lot of times we are. And then there's those moments where you're at the end of your rope and you've been parenting kids all day, or you've had the most exhausting, stressful day. You got 4 hours of sleep and you got pulled over, and 3 of your kids have been like just pulling on you constantly all evening. By the time 8 p.m. rolls around, you might just kind of, without even thinking about it, just turn around and scream in their face, because that's where you're at. It doesn't mean you don't love your child in that moment. That's a reflection of where you're at emotionally. That's all that's a reflection of. But that holds true for all of our interactions with other adults as well. I mean, it's really simply just a reflection of where we're at or where they're at as to how that interaction goes. So just kind of offering this as a kind of deeper reflection into self-love and understanding the human person, and being able to see others with compassion and love and in light of truth, because that changes everything. And if we want peace in this world, this is where it begins. So, love to you, my friends.